week's video we're going to look at isometric holds and how they can be used to develop shoulder and hip stability via side planks. The side plank is a great exercise. It's a horrible exercise. It's a very difficult exercise to do, particularly when we look at the inside of the hip. But for most people, the main issue with performing side planks is inability to hold the correct position. In order to get the plank to work, you need to brace yourself in such a way that your body is maximally using the muscles to hold yourself elevated. A lot of people go into a side plank without thinking a lot about what they're doing. So, example. This is a side plank you might see. It seems okay, but there are a couple of things wrong with this side plank. For a start, I'm not really using my glutes. I'm not really using the proper muscles in my shoulder girdle. My hips are a little bit back. If I tighten my glutes, the hips lift, and you'll hear the strain. And then I tighten my abs, and I pull my shoulder back and down so that the elbow is facing towards my feet. All of a sudden you'll see me starting to shake because I'm starting to use muscles that need to be worked. And we have this thing, planks. People can hold planks for days apparently. They're not really a very efficient or effective plank. You want to use your plank to develop muscular strength. If you're going to use muscular strength, it means you have to activate and contract those muscles. So if you're just hanging out in a side plank and you're feeling cool and nothing's really happening, it's probably because nothing's really happening. So maybe review and evaluate what you're doing. So the side planks held for time are brilliant, relatively safe way of developing stability in both the hip girdle and the shoulder girdle. A lot of people that we see are missing that strength, that ability to hold and stabilize their hips and their shoulders in particular positions. So a lot of people have a problem with their shoulders being, we've discussed this already, up and forward. And that's great. This is a elbow side plank with my shoulders up and forward. This is a position that's not going to help me with all of the muscular problems and pain problems that come from having a shoulder that's up and forward. In order to rectify issues in the shoulder girdle using side plank, you would need to put your shoulder into the position that it's not used to being in. So if it's up and forward, back and down is the position that you want to try to get your shoulder in. I hope that makes some sense. If you also happen to have issues at your hips with an anterior pelvic tilt, which I've just created for you. If I go into a side plank with an anterior pelvic tilt, I am not going to do anything to fix a lot of the muscular problems and pain issues that come from having an anterior pelvic tilt. In order to fix that anterior pelvic tilt, I need to go the opposite way. So I push the hips forward, tighten my butt, tighten my abs. That makes it, takes you from anterior to either neutral or slightly posterior, usually fine for most people. And that, anterior pelvic tilt posture, posterior pelvic tilt posture creates a dynamic, active, and really quite charged side plank. Okay. So position-wise, that's what you need to think about. Are my glutes active? Are my hips slightly pushed forward? Are my abs tight? As far as the shoulder girdle is concerned, is my chest lifted? Are my shoulders pulled back and down? And if you're got your arm out, have I screwed my arm practically so that the elbow is facing down towards my feet? Okay, this is called external rotation. This is called internal rotation. If you go to external rotation and hold the side plank, you're going to activate the external rotators of the arm. Clues in the title, folks. Okay, so two planks for you. They both work the shoulder girdle and they'll both work the hip, but in slightly different forms. The first one, which is the one I've been demonstrating, side plank. Feet stacked, hips stacked. If we go to elbow side plank, elbow underneath the shoulder or with the shoulder slightly ahead of the elbow. You don't want the elbow out here for lots of reasons, because it starts to aggravate the traps. So stack the shoulder above the elbow, stack the hips, stack the feet, lift yourself up, straighten the legs, tighten the glutes, tighten the abs, pull the shoulder into position, brace and hold. That bottom foot should be active so that it makes the outside of the hip work. This is a great exercise for stability of the outside of the hip and shoulder stability. You can progress it by going to the straight arm version. Most people, when they do this, will put the hand facing forward. This internally rotates the arm. Don't do that. Don't do that. Externally rotate the arm as much as you can. Lift at a slightly higher angle. Active bottom foot. Glutes on. Abs braced. Shoulder screwed. And hold. You can waggle this about if you want to. There's loads of other things you can do, but a static hold for about 60 seconds, 3 rounds, before you think of progressing. You can regress the side plank with kneeling versions, and you can progress the side plank by waggling things about. I've got a bench in the way, but I'll lift over it and do stuff like that, and you can waggle things and try not to fall over. So that's the side plank for the outside of the hip for the shoulder girdle. Second one, Copenhagen plank. This is one of the most evil planks the fitness world has ever created. It's for the inside of the groin. So it'll work your adductors. The first one, the normal plank, works the outside of the hip, and those are abductors. Makes no difference, but that's what you do in abductors and adductors. The adductors in most people are also weak in a neutral position. People with unstable hips, where their hips collapse, might have a degree of strength in the contracted position of the adductor. So if your hip collapses in when you squat, they might be quite strong in that position, but not in a neutral position. So you can use the Copenhagen plank to develop stability in the inside of the hip. You need a bench, you need a floor, you need your body. We'll start with the easy one. elbow. We're going to run through the same process we've just done. I'm going to put my foot on that bench. It's going to be an active foot. I'm going to line up my hips. I'm going to make sure the hips are stacked. I'm going to make sure my shoulder is stacked over my elbow. My chest is lifted. And then I'm simply going to lift up into the plank. I'm going to reset by tightening that glute. I'll feel my groin instantly, and then I'll hold that. I'll try not to sag. I'll try to keep almost like I'm standing on one leg, sideways, and then I'll just drop down because I don't want my adductor to rip off. I have done these this morning. A minute is a big ask for Copenhagen's. 3 rounds of 30 seconds would be what you would maybe want to aim to have a decent amount of strength in the groin, through isometric holds. 30 seconds, not 30 minutes. They can be progressed similarly by going into the straight arm version. All the same. The standing arm, rotate it around, active foot, hips come into stacked, lift up, straighten the leg, lock the knee, glutes forward, abs braced, and enjoy. You will see, if you're looking closely, that my arm is shaking from all the strain going through that shoulder girdle and down. So that's the Copenhagen plank. If you want to regress that, the easiest way to do that is just go reduce the levers. So if I come down onto my knee, place my knee on there, and lift up with the leg straight, it's much more comfortable. Move out, move out, move out. And that's your maximum. So regressions and progressions of the Copenhagen plank. Regressions and progressions can be done for the side plank. But each of those exercise variants are particularly good for stability. If it's not something that you've incorporated into your training, it might be worth thinking about. If you've got any questions, give us a shout. We're here to help. I hope that was of some use to you.